Welcome to this mini session hosted by Admissionado. We are a premier admissions counseling and consulting company. My name is Doris Huang. I am a senior consultant with Admissionado specializing in MBA applications, and I'm excited to bring to you today some pro tips for creating your school list. Now, as we head into the summer, it's that time of year when lots of people are thinking about the fall and where they should apply to business school. It can be overwhelming because there's so many choices. And this is a very important part of the process that many people tend to overlook. So I'm going to talk to you today about 3 big pieces of advice that are very actionable that you can take to make sure that you build your competitive advantage in the applicant pool, starting with this school list. Pro tip number 1. What are the questions you should even be asking yourself? What are the factors that you ought to be weighing as you compile this school list? Number 1, first and foremost, is school reputation. And if you spend any time at all on GMAT Club or other forums, you're going to hear a lot of chatter about this, which school is ranked higher than another. And there's good reason for this, because not only does a school's ranking affect the types of employers and the number of employers who come to recruit on campus for internships and post-MBA jobs, but ask any alumnus of any of these top programs, and they'll tell you that the school's reputation is also reflected in the strength of the alumni network. And the farther along you go in your career, the more you will find that that school network becomes a larger and larger part of your career journey. So with good reason, this is actually a very important factor for you to consider in building your school list. Second is geography. This is both in terms of where you'd like to spend your year or two as a full-time MBA student, but it also is related to where you would like to end up post-MBA in your first job coming out of business school. Now, it's the case that many of the top programs, both in the United States and abroad, do attract employers who are recruiting at a national or even an international global level. However, there are some industries and some cases where post-MBA recruitment is more localized. So for example, if you know that you want to work in Europe after graduation, your chances will be better if you do attend business school in a country like the United Kingdom, Spain, or France. Similarly, if you know that you want to work on the West Coast of the United States in technology, for example, chances are better that you'll land a job in that industry or in that region if you do attend a program, for example, in California in the United States. Duration is one that is highly individualized. Everyone's situation is going to be different, and this is closely correlated with program costs and how much you are able or willing to spend on your business school education. You have to ask yourself how long you're willing to take yourself out of the workforce and how long you're willing to forego income while you're a full-time student, if you are looking at full-time programs. And of course, the longer that you are in business school and out of the workforce, the higher your tuition and living costs are likely to be. So again, everyone's situation is highly different, and so there's no generalized advice here other than make sure you give this particular factor a lot of close thought. Finally, you do need to consider your competitiveness, and this is measured in a number of ways. The GMAT, of course, is the most obvious barometer, but the GMAT score is only one way to measure how competitive you are relative to an application pool. You also have to think about the strength of your undergraduate institution and what field your degree was in. In addition to your resume, is it highly traditional? Do you come from backgrounds like management consulting or finance that are typically feeders for MBA programs, or is it more unconventional? And do you perhaps have a more entrepreneurial path that will take a little bit more storytelling to communicate to the admissions committee? Your age matters as well. If you happen to be on the lower or higher end of the median age range published by these schools on their class profile sites, you need to give some extra thought to making that argument to the admissions committee about why you are a great fit for this program. So these are the starting factors that you should bear in mind kind of as a rubric as you do your research. That leads us to pro tip number 2. Be proactive and resourceful in your school research. What I mean by this is you should go above and beyond just spending time trawling through a school's website as you decide whether or not you want to apply. Now, that doesn't minimize the fact that schools now have an abundance of information on their websites about their programs. So by all means, use that as a starting point. But here's how you can go above and beyond. Attend info sessions. These could be held in person in your city or town, although more likely than not, this year most sessions will be virtual. Make sure you attend these, ask questions. Put down your name, your email address, your phone number so that if admissions committees refer to this information, they can see that you were an active and enthusiastic participant in these info sessions. Make sure you tour the campus too. Not everybody is going to have the ability to tour campuses in person, especially this year with COVID. That's okay. It's not to your detriment if you cannot actually get to a campus physically before you apply. But there are so many wonderful videos on YouTube nowadays that showcase what campuses look like, what new construction looks like, if a school has opened a new building recently. Make sure you watch these so you can really start to get a sense of what it would be like to spend time on campus. Does it draw you? Are you excited to be there? Get current. Get smart about what is happening at your target schools right now. A good starting point for this is every school's media page, where usually they will include press releases, perhaps about new business centers that they've opened up that are industry specific. Maybe they do have a new part of the campus or a new building that's opening up. Perhaps they have a new partnership with employers within a certain field. Figure out what's going on. See how it relates to your career or your desired career post-graduation. You can also do a Google search for news articles to see what outside publications like newspapers or business periodicals are writing about your target schools. And finally, I'm sure that many of you spend a good amount of your free time on social media, so don't hesitate to subscribe to the social media accounts of the schools that you're interested in. This might be on YouTube or Twitter, perhaps Instagram. Each school is going to have a different kind of social media presence, so you'll have to do a little bit of digging, but it is such a great way to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening right now on campus, and it'll give you a real flavor for what it would be like to be part of that community starting next year. Finally, pro tip number 3, start networking now. The point of this pro tip is that there is so much amazing information that can be gleaned from talking to people, not just spending time passively researching online. Call upon connections in your personal network who are alumni of the schools that you're interested in. And don't get discouraged if you personally don't know somebody who went to UCLA Anderson or Chicago Booth. Chances are, if you do a little bit of digging in LinkedIn or perhaps on your undergraduate alumni network site, you'll find somebody who knows somebody who was an MBA student at these programs. And those people are oftentimes a great place to start, to have a virtual coffee chat, to learn more about their experience. Perhaps they have some valuable insight into how you might be a great fit for that program. If you live in a large metropolitan area in particular, whether in the United States or abroad, this can also be a great starting point, is contacting your local alumni club of the school that you're interested, Harvard Business School, Wharton, Stanford, whatever the case may be. Again, it can be more challenging if you live in a smaller city or perhaps in a more rural area, but if you can travel to a site that's nearby that does have a local alumni club, that can be a great reason for you to reach out. Typically, these clubs have websites that are publicly available with contact information. And just reach out, say that you're interested in applying. Most alumni are great ambassadors for their programs, and they love to hear from people who want to attend these programs, and they're great for answering questions. Finally, this last one is a little bit more hit or miss, but it's certainly worth trying. Some schools have websites for student clubs and organizations. Now, the degree to which these are maintained and kept up to date will vary, but let's say, for example, you're interested in the real estate field post-graduation. Why not look to see if you can find the Real Estate Association or club website for UCLA Anderson or for University of Virginia? These can be a great way to get to know current students. So oftentimes the officers of these clubs are rising second-year MBA students who are active in this field. So not only can they tell you about their experiences as a student in general, but they can also tell you more about the resources available for your particular industry of interest. So oftentimes, again, if you do a little bit more digging, you might actually find email addresses for these MBA officers, and that can be a wonderful way to get introduced to the student body. So I know this sounds very overwhelming and like a ton of work, but here's the great news. If you do your homework properly and thoroughly at this stage of the game while assembling your school list, not only will this help you come up with the right list of schools for you to apply to this fall and this winter, but it will also prepare you for those all-important essays and interviews down the road. We all know that pretty much every school is going to ask you, again, whether in a written essay or during the interview phase, why you want to attend that particular program. And we've seen many applicants struggle to give answers that are specific and detailed. The good news is, if you do this homework now with your school list, not only will you feel confident in the schools that you apply to because you know that you want to be there, but you'll also have tons of information at your fingertips available to draw from when it comes time to write your essays and to speak to an interviewer about your passion for that school. I hope you found this helpful. I invite you to reach out to us at www.admissionado.com or to contact us at info@ if you'd like to speak to us more about how we can help you in your application journey. Best of luck to all of you. Thanks.